Okay. So I hope it's recording. Okay, yeah, it's recording. All right.
Hi.
Hi, Tim and Tara. This is Kelly, Jill, and Chris again. We are going to do some peer review and feedback on our capstone timelines. We're going to start with Chris's non-aggressive timeline and then her aggressive one, and just have her first talk through kind of her thoughts on what she did, and then Jill and I will kind of chime in with some feedback on that. Go ahead, Chris.
So I think mainly throughout this course we've been kind of planning, and I feel like part of our planning stage at the start, we definitely need to analyze our data and get a stronger foundation, as far as, because when we met with our Chris Kipp, he was just like, we need a stronger foundation. He wasn't sure if discharge phone calls or how we wanted to do it was necessarily appropriate. So we need to just kind of look at the literature and maybe explain how we're focusing on nursing and getting patients acclimated to telehealth and technology.
So let me ask a question. To analyze this data, do we need to set an appointment with somebody, or is this something that the data is available to us that we can pull and understand it ourselves?
So actually, I reached out to Hernachek, and she said that because we have a whole readmissions thing, and she's like, and if you look under transplant, you could kind of see, and it looked like there was some readmissions related to graft versus host.
Okay.
Disease, so we could see if there's any of that, but there is a analytical department if we want to use that too, but also looking at articles maybe related to like people learning the technology and like what barriers to that there are maybe.
We also have the resource, which I emailed Wendy Granger to find out. She's in our BMT. She's one of the BMT data managers. She hasn't emailed me back yet, but I think that would be a good starting point too. So I think we got some good people that we can talk to about that. So.
And she's one also with data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
okay.
I'll pop up to mine too, because I had something pretty similar in my plan. This was my non-aggressive one, but yeah, data management. What Chris said is kind of analyzing that data early on, because I think I feel like
right.
we need to do that as well. So I don't know, Jill, I can't recall. Did you have anything in yours?
I did. I have review analytics from, I had from discharge phone calling, but whichever. But I feel like, at least for myself, I need to meet with people in virtual health so I can at least understand. At some point here, I need to meet with them to understand how this virtual health works with our system, what the patient sees.
And Chris, did you have that in yours?
They're part of our stakeholders.
Okay. So you consider that stakeholder. Okay.
And that's each orange was when we would meet and update with the stakeholders. I wasn't sure because we should be doing that. I think one of our project management like interviews, she's like, maybe every certain people you meet like every 90 days. And
yeah, I did the same thing, Chris, and I just put it as sponsored because I think we met with Eileen, right? And I listened to her, our interview with her, and after re-listening, it was like really, really helpful. And that's kind of how I took some of the things from what she said, and that was the sponsored checkpoints, kind of like what you said. But yeah, I thought that was helpful too. But to your point, Jill, too, I think early on we probably need to meet with the virtual health department, to get kind of their guidance of how to implement this as well. So based on
and then
go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Jill.
Well, I was just going to say, Chris and I talked to you about yesterday about trying to meet with Dr. Kraut also to see it in action.
I think that would be really good too, for sure. So,
Okay.
Based off our interview with risk management, I really didn't really think about how important that would be. Obviously, it was a great interview with Deb Ward that we had, but I felt like that's probably something, especially aligns with our next assignment with risk management, like doing that probably early on and meeting with her, or even anytime now since our assignment's going to be due soon. But that's, I
Right.
put that early in our timeline as well.
I think I have it early on too.
Yeah.
I did too, and compliance. Because risk management, because I had listened to that, she also brought up how important it was to meet with somebody in compliance.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a good one.
And I think, with compliance, because we're not billing per se as nurses, but I think it's going to become a bigger thing when we look at when the APPs eventually probably take this on. So that's definitely going to be something that we need to kind of look ahead at as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then Chris, so you have, policies and that was here, was that your compliance stuff here, Chris?
Yeah, it was part of the like funding and stuff like that. Cause I know even though we can't charge, I think down the line, it'd be more about the providers. If you look at my aggressive, I kind of took that out and just focusing on what we're doing.
Okay.
Where the, even though they say it's about the quality, not about being paid, but the fact is it keeps coming up. They want to know how to bill.
Right.
Right.
And I seen, let's see, what else was I going to ask you? So determining tracking and measurement, like you have that kind of a wide span. What were you talking about there per se?
Well, we need to know like what kind of measurements we're going to be doing and determining that. And I'm like, figuring out what we want. And that's why it's so long, because it's kind of like figuring out and start measuring it. Like
that makes sense. So you guys did a little different, like you had kind of like Jill's too, I think. You had kind of like, completed or like a span of things. Actually, I guess, and I don't know which one's right or wrong. I didn't have like necessarily a span, but I kind of like that. Like you should be working on it like in this period of time. I don't know what's right or what's wrong, but yeah, that was kind of neat. So what else, Chris? Just kind of going back and forth from yours to ours.
I know like
the equipment and infrastructure private space. So that's just taking a look at or trying to get our equipment and finding the space to pilot this.
Right.
And that's a matter of kind of working with probably our service line administrator and our directors to find places to where we can do this in a private setting. And that was one thing we brought up to Chris Kipp too, was that we need to obviously find a place to do this. And unfortunately, space right now is not a high commodity.
But he did say he would find it for us.
Right. So
is this something then that we work through Amanda with?
I would say, well, don't you think, Chris, we work through Amanda?
Initially, yes, and then once we would get resource planning in there to kind of figure out what kind of equipment and stuff we would need in that space.
Yeah. And we've done a lot of renovation and construction and different things over the last several years. We have people that we work with that can help us with those things once we identify the space.
Out of curiosity, they have it's like a telehealth room somewhere. Hang on, Jenny, do you know where that's at? The telehealth room for like the prison clinic. Okay. I know it's somewhere over there in main campus. Might be Sterling.
We can probably ask.
Dr. Kraut said it's here, like somewhere telehealth.
It is somewhere over there, and I wonder if that's used all the time. If it's not used all the time, is that space available?
Because he said, "Yo, you come to my office where I do it right here." Like I'm like, "You're in the James?" like he made it sound like it's right here on campus. He does it.
Well, we talked about exploring with Sharon Steingast because the after hours call center is not, they don't open till 4:30. And I'm not sure if people hotel there during the day, but we thought that ideally could be a space, and it's just down the hall from the clinic. So it could be potentially something. We also have a little closet room that we have a psychologist kind of working out of, but she's not here that often. So that some space, but.
Well, I was just thinking if it's a space that already is has the equipment, then that's one less, hurdle to cross over.
One thing Chris said she had talked when you were talking about Dr. Crow, like his kind of high definition, right?
Yeah, he says his screens, like he said the computers here are okay and they work and the cameras are okay, but he's like in his, what he does it, he has 2 screens and they're larger and he's like, he feels like he's in the room with them. So I even not only seeing him do it, but just even looking at the equipment that he has.
And the one thing that Deb Ward said it, because I had just re-listened to her interview as well when it comes to risk. And one of the things that she had, because we had asked her about like, what would you see as risk? And one of the things she did say was like, you're taking away from that personal like interaction. You may miss on picking up things that you normally would when you're together with them. So that think about like if you had the right equipment, it might help you,
And that's what Dr. Kraut was saying.
So, flip over to my timeline here too. So, yeah, I had space identification, kind of doing that. And then at some point, once we identify the space and ordering equipment, and then we do have to work with, I think somewhat early is getting our templates built. So I think the sooner, I think that kind of aligns with once we talk to them, we figure out like how the templates work. And so we can get that built.
And at the time, I think it was Sarah Nance and they said that it wouldn't be a problem. And we were talking about doing 20 minutes with 10-minute breaks in between. What's nice about my slide, and I don't know if you could do it because of the PowerPoint.
This one?
Yeah, because there's another view, which I wonder if I have to share that view, where I actually have notes for these things. And it talks about so I took notes about the timeline and, we're going to do 8 to 8:20, 8:30 to 8:50. Because they're you need that 10 minutes in between for, just finishing up some stuff. And
yeah, I remember that when we talked about that. Yeah.
Kelly,
go ahead, Jill.
No, finish your conversation because this kind of drifts away from it for a second.
I was just going to ask Kelly, you had meet weekly, but it was with the sponsor.
I think that meant just meet us is what I meant, but I was defining the sponsors as Jaglowski and Chris. This was just my own notes, I guess, off to the side. I'd made some other considerations, but those were just my side little notes. But meeting weekly was more all of us as a team.
Okay, meet with the project team weekly.
Yeah, and then the sponsor check-in was more just Dr. Jag and Chris.
Okay.
Where we're at with our process is what I meant by that.
Okay.
So, Jill, what were you going to say? If you remember.
So I see under yours, you say considerations to survey patients for readiness. And then on mine, I actually had the survey in there. Is that something that we're still considering?
I think
just to gauge patients' readiness.
I think we have to. It's our end users. I was thinking, even talking to a couple of the nurses in HTC, do you mind just asking some of the patients, they're checking them in, checking them out. Hey, if we had video telehealth, would you consider it? Very casual, nothing too, in depth, just to get an idea. how many, patients would want to do it. And
do you think, like, since we're kind of focusing on those allogeneic patients, do you think at the time of workup that would be like the best time, or?
I just don't think we'll get a large number.
Mm-hmm.
Where, like, I think that's a good time to do it, but I think also casually even past allogeneic patients and stuff like that.
Start to get everybody, like, what is their feeling on it?
Yeah, like we keep it on allos, but we could, like, the ones who've gone through transplant already, what their on it are.
And eventually this will roll out to not just allos, but hopefully more, so yeah, you're right about that. So, what else? And then, like, the education piece, I think, is going to be probably one of the more challenging. Like, this stuff, I think, we meet with people, we get things accomplished. I think, to me, this is going to probably be one of the most challenging parts of it all, is educating not only the patients, but the staff members, working with, initially PCRMs if we wanted them to schedule calls, and, the communications and all those things. So I think this will probably be some of our most challenging, because, you guys probably know now when you have to implement or roll out a new product, it's not always easy.
Well, something today happened. I'm like, did we educate them on that? Like, I had to think about it.
Right. So I think that.
Well, part of that too is staff buy-in, because if they don't see the importance or agree with it, then they're not going to educate the patient on it.
Right. I think people are excited about it. Getting into it, I think, will be the hard part. So, and then let's see, what else, Chris, did you have?
I had, with my education, I had like assigning 1 or 2 point persons to be like the champions.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as like getting them, also like we mess around with the equipment, making sure it works okay. And I was even thinking like a PDSA cycle type deal where we constantly, we're playing with it, trying it out, and then just tweaking things here and there before we go live. But like, if we could also have a couple, staff members as champions to help implement it.
I like that too.
That's what I kind of had on mind also, is like the PDSA cycles where you run a trial, you review, tweak what needs to be tweaked, and then do another one.
And how long do you guys think, like, Jill, you've got about 2 months worth of a pilot, it looks like?
I think in my aggressive one is shorter than my non.
And this one is your non-aggressive up there, yeah.
Yeah, so the non-aggressive was 2 months. I think my aggressive one was a month.
Okay.
And then tweak it and do it again.
Right.
And I read somewhere your pilot should be as long as it is, till you know whether it's stable or not.
Right. I just didn't want to keep hitting pilot, analyze,
Right.
I just did it after 2. But I think we all basically have, with the exception of a couple of things, the same information.
Yeah.
I feel like.
I would agree, yeah. I think, like, with my pilot, I had us not starting till July, and that was my non-aggressive.
Non-aggressive.
Aggressive one was April. So, basically when I felt like all these components were necessary, but we had to speed them up. But who knows if we can get everything in.
I was going to say, it was hard when it came to aggressive. I was like, okay, what can I delete out? Like, what points can we,
Get rid of?
And maybe ask for forgiveness later type deal.
Yeah. I think I was playing around after I had sent this to you guys, but like, I think I had added like the patient surveys here. and this was on my aggressive one, and then also involving IT security and a privacy officer.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was mentioned in the interview we had with Deb about like when you're identifying risk, like, you know, and maybe
In compliance, I think that's good.
yeah. So, you know, one of the questions like for peer review we have to ask is, you know, what contribution does this make to the project? And I feel like this, actually, I was talking to Dr. Ackerman today about our other class, but I told him that I felt like this assignment was probably one of the better assignments for our project because it really lays out what we still need to do in the next coming months to year or whatever. So I felt like this was a very helpful contribution to our project in general.
You want to pull that up and type while we're doing it?
Oh, I think this.
You want to pull up?
I think our recording
template.
Our recording will be our submission.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So I felt like this assignment in general was a pretty good contribution to our project.
I think it's going to be helpful. It just helps give it more like
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then
it really is a real thing.
Now we got to make it happen.
Right.
So,
we could.
I think we're getting there.
I think we can do it.
It makes me, actually, I got really excited when I started to look at it and like, oh, you know, it's just like you said, it structures it. And I think like probably one of the things that I'm looking most forward to is the virtual health department interview that we'll have. Be kind of enlightening. So, and
right.
Once we see the template built too, I think that will be kind of cool. So, and then one of the other questions was, what value is this to the healthcare organization? So
well, I think it's moving us forward because even with, were you guys there on, what day was that? Everything's running together. Monday? Tuesday? The leadership over at Union?
Yes.
I mean, Dr. Paz was talking about, you know, everything virtual health, I mean, and access, patient access. So this is gearing us towards that way, especially that.
It aligns with our vision and mission of the organization. So, and I think that's a big point when we're trying to, you know, get things done, that we, you know, we have to just keep like, this is part of the mission. Like, we are going to get it done because they're going to want this.
Right.
I sat in a meeting too on Monday and I just felt very proud, you know, like, because we decided, I think we kind of decided we're going to do this before it was really announced that this was the strategic plan. And so you kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing this, like, you know.
I agree. I think we're already on it.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and then identify one specific area that could be enhanced to improve this work.
I think it's, we need to just kind of, you know, like we examine all of this and that we each have key points and things to make sure we have everything that we need in there.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I think just kind of always re-examining and readjusting.
I'm sure as we go along, we're going to find more stuff that we missed.
Right.
That we should have put in here because one door leads to another door, which, yes.
And I think that's why having the extended, some of the extended timelines, it's like, well, I hope I can meet with them within this time, but let's give some wiggle room for that.
Yeah.
Certain things don't.
It definitely gives us time to kind of think about things and put it back in. But yeah, I feel like the interviews that we've had have been probably some of the most valuable things to our project thus far, especially like with risk management and the project engineer. They were both really, really good. So
Right. As I say, it just helps. It brings it all together.
Right.
Absolutely. So, all right. You guys have anything else that you wanted to provide any feedback on?
not on this, but when we're done recording, I have a couple things.
Okay. We may have to restart our Zoom because I think we're getting close to the end. I got 7 minutes, but I'll stop the recording now. See you, Tim and Tara.
Bye, Tim and Tara.